The Jays destroyed Joel Embiid in a decisive victory against the Philadelphia 76ers. Tatum looked amazing. Brogdon led an impressive bench unit, and the Celtics defense, particularly on Embiid, held up despite a supposed big man problem for the Celtics. All of that next on First to the Floor.
Who was going to be first to the floor here? And it was Marcus Smart, as he usually is.
Brown drives.
That's not the first time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice the body.
All right, welcome into our live podcast show. Shout out to everyone listening to the podcast after the fact. Welcome to everyone in the chat there. Ben Vallis here, and I'm joined by Jackson, a.k.a. Rickman Lives. Jackson, how you doing, sir? Welcome.
I think you can guess how I'm doing, man. Very well, thank you.
I think we're all doing incredibly right now. And Jake, our mate Jake Eisenberg, welcome back in our third live stream of the day. How you doing, buddy?
Mate, I'm guys. I'm good to go. Fuck Philly, feeling good.
Yes.
Giant beer. That's rad.
Giant beer, fuck Philly, all the ingredients for a great post-game show. Jackson, let's start with the obvious here. I mentioned it up the top there. Jayson Tatum looked incredible throughout this game from beginning to end. What are your thoughts just overall after this game on our budding young MVP candidate?
You've seen those performances from him before, but I can't remember the last time we saw anything like close to that on opening night. I think he's banked 3 against like Milwaukee a couple years ago. Like that was like a kind of, oh yeah, Tatum does it in the game one. But like really, that was as assured, confident, and inspiring sort of like leadership performance that I've seen from Tatum. To do it on opening night on national television is a statement that's no doubt going to get the MVP narrative going. I just think you couldn't really ask for anything more from the guy. I don't have his turnover numbers in front of me. Could somebody help me out there? But I don't think there were that many. I can't remember there being that many egregious ones.
Help us out in the chat, by the way, as we randomly call for help here, which I will do plenty throughout the pod. Tatum had, yep. I'm going to say 3. He did 3 turnovers,
yep.
According to stats.nba.com. Tends to be accurate.
That's fine. That is if he has 3 turnovers a game, like with how much he's going to have the ball in his hands, that is totally fine.
Yeah, you'll live with that.
And
sure.
There was just that one really poor stretch, I want to say early in the third quarter or somewhere through the third quarter where the Jays themselves had back-to-back turnovers. And it was just kind of a blip, like a lapse in concentration that wasn't uniform through the rest of the game. So if you exclude that, the turnovers, they look even better, more favorable to the Jays. Jake, speak more to Jayson Tatum, because obviously that was an incredible performance, and we're not used to seeing it so early in the season.
Everybody has been mentally preparing for the Tatum slow start. Everybody in the chat beforehand, we had a 7 for 21 prediction. I was mentally prepared for it. I was prepared for everything besides the points part of this game. I was very confident that he was going to come out rebounding, playmaking, elite defense, but even that other stuff was at a high level. Like that's some of the best defense I've seen him play. I think he just has, and the Celtics in general have Embiid figured out. Like they know exactly when to kind of dig down and get those double teams. He was so good on defense, getting out in transition. Man, to come out like that sets the tone for the season. Jackson, that was a great point with the leadership thing. When you see your best player and the guy that has been in the media all off season, copping strays for losing the finals, to come out and put on a show like that and be like, yeah, I'm back and I'm hungry for, like, how can you not be insanely excited after that?
Right.
MVP campaign is off to a fantastic start.
Yeah, it's underway. The Jays combined for 70 points, which is incredible. And I don't want to say that's like the necessary ingredient for a win throughout the season, but certainly starting off and just sort of stamping that, emphasizing their impact on the rest of the league and announcing themselves as a after that finals loss, obviously very disappointing end to last season, and coming back and starting things off with a bang against like a perennial MVP candidate and a guy like Joel Embiid, who I think we defended incredibly well. And I think, as our agenda or our run sheet for this pod emerges, obviously we're just doing it off the cuff here with the game having just ended. I think a good approach is just sort of run down the matters of importance of this game. So Jackson, do you want to talk about maybe what the second most important thing is? I would hazard a guess that our defense, particularly Vonleh's defense off the bench on Joel Embiid, was maybe the second most important factor of this game.
Oh, yeah. I think the complete nullification of Joel Embiid is what ultimately wins this game, at least from the defensive standpoint, because don't forget, we had a great game from Harden. We had a very, very, dominant, effective hot streak from Maxey to start the fourth quarter. All they really needed was like an average day at the office from Joel Embiid, and they didn't get it. Now, I don't think he was that good, but I don't think he was helped by the kind of defense we were playing on him, and particularly from Noah Vonleh, who just didn't even look remotely like put off or overpowered. Like the most joy that Embiid had was when he was racking up fouls on Grant Williams in the first quarter, or in the first half, I should say. So nullifying him, I think, easily becomes the second most important part of this this victory. Yeah,
I'm so impressed with Vonleh. I've kind of been not a big Vonleh guy, but he was really solid tonight. I mean, he still does some things where I'm like, please figure out how your hands work. But he was really solid, and rebounding was a serious issue throughout the preseason. And I did not there was a few offensive rebounds, but the Celtics were on the offensive glass as well. Did not feel like the offensive glass was an issue today. And especially against a lineup that had a lot more size throughout the game with Harris, and PJ Tucker has given the Celtics problems on the offensive glass. The Heat series comes to mind specifically with PJ Tucker. So clean that. And that's what he does. Like if the guy that you're bringing off the bench can be part of the solution to one of your bigger issues from the preseason, like that's a massive win. Yeah, the defense from Vonleh just being solid. When Rob was still a pup and had that game against Embiid where it felt like Embiid was just like, oh, this guy has no chance at stopping me. He went to the line just over and over and over again. Like Rob was pretty much fouled out in like 8 minutes in that game. Vonleh held his own, and he used his fouls. Like they lasted enough minutes because Hours had his own trouble. So for him to come in and soak up those minutes and not be a disaster, massive.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're just joining us, and shout out to Eric Weiss, friend of the show, we're just running through off the cuff here the matters of importance from top to bottom. So obviously started with Jayson Tatum's incredible game. We talked about the team's overall defense on Joel Embiid, and the Celtics actually won the rebound battle. 47 to 39, which was really one of the things that we predicted absolutely to go the Sixers' way prior to the game. But in a game where we clearly had trouble early on with how aggressively we were contesting shots, particularly perimeter shots. We saw James Harden get to the free throw line a number of times being fouled on threes. We saw a flagrant on Al Horford. And then Vonleh comes in with just these sort of like cool, calm, collected methods of contesting perimeter shots. And then obviously that cascaded down to his perimeter defense as well. Thank you, Spoonie, for the comment on the transitions. If we get back to the matters of importance, and I can't sing the praises of Vonleh enough, Malcolm Brogdon and Stan Van Gundy gave a shout out to the bench unit. I don't know the last time I've heard a shout out to a Celtics bench unit from a national TV commentator, but Brogdon just came in and kind of led that unit to victory. Obviously, the second unit contained at times members of the starting unit, but Brogdon, we saw straight away, game one of the regular season, him just like stamping his mark in terms of his impact on the team. Jackson, what were your initial impressions of Malcolm Brogdon on this team?
Oh, it just fits. It just works. It feels like something that we've like really been missing for a long time. Just a really reliable point guard off the bench who can get things going. Going back to when Smart was coming off the bench, but what's his stat line? 16-2 for 2 steals. Super efficient. 7 of 11. Like it just
not 5 assists.
Not 5 assists.
So close.
4 assists.
No, I was just saying.
4.5.
That was the luck of the day.
Those guys in Vegas.
Oh my god!
They know what
and
they're doing.
I'm quite certain he's the one who throws that ball into Horford like completely unmarked in the paint, and he just botches that layup too. So Yuck. Yeah, no, him off the bench. If that's the caliber performance we're going to get for the rest of the season, then we're not going to have bench issues, at least as far as I can tell. He was just massively important. I would back him being the third most important factor here. Yeah.
He was crucial. Like in the first half, I think he had 10 and like 5 for 7 from the field at a time where it just felt like the Celtics needed to just weather the storm of all the Philly bullshit with the fouls and the uneven kind of game that was happening. And he was so important for that. So it's right, Ben, like I don't know when we've had a bench be not just competent, but like your bench comes in, you're like, good luck trying to stop our bench. Because I feel really good about what they're going to be able to do now.
Yeah, and with Brogdon at the helm, it's incredible. Obviously, small sample size, one game of the regular season, but we had a nice little taste of things in the preseason as well. But Brogdon, 64% or 63.6% shooting on 11 attempts. Got to the line once, 2 of 2 from the line, and 1 turnover. So just so efficient. And obviously, at the helm of that second unit, you're not necessarily playing with like the 4 other best players on the team. And so to still be able to limit your turnovers to that level is incredible. Jake, if we go to you for what I guess would now be the 4th most important factor coming out of this game, what have you got for us?
I know we kind of touched on Jaylen. I want to emphasize how important he is. Like I know he had the rocky first quarter when we were all like, "What, Jaylen, you're Mr. First Quarter," but literally from then on, he was awesome. Fast breaks, good defense. I can't believe he ended up with 35 on 58% shooting. Like
wild, right?
Incredible. Yeah.
I think it was when he sorry, Jake. I think it's when he got fouled shooting the 3 and he got those 3 free throws. I think that took him to 5 points. He didn't look back from then. It was like that was the moment for me. I think it turned, but you're right. He was incredible today.
Yeah, and that's what I want from Jay. Like he got 24 shots, 12 threes. I just want him to be a gunner. Like we saw a couple of little mishaps with the dribbling. Just be decisive and attack and get the shots up because his finishing from all 3 levels, 3-point, mid-range, at the rim, is elite. And like you saw how much attention Tatum's getting throughout the game. If one of your outlets is Jaylen, just go and let it fly. And he completely took off in the second half, especially. So I just want to emphasize it. Like stopping Jayson and Jaylen, good luck, man. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we did kind of just like brush upon the Jays there very quickly to begin this pod and then moved on. And I think that you're right, they absolutely are deserving of a little bit more discussion. Well, yeah, I mean, Jaylen absolutely looked in his head in the first quarter, surprisingly, because like you said, he's like his first quarter Jaylen, all reliable. But, for the rest of the game, he kind of got out of that funk and it was great to see. Another thing on Jayson Tatum, if we want to talk about why and how he was so effective, his rebounding into transition buckets is such an effective weapon for this team. Like,
yes,
we've said it during the playback stream. It's almost as effective as a steal, as a turnover, in that like he just grabs that ball right off the boards and just zips it up the court. Either with some pace, which I guess Tatum is not known for, like his raw speed, gets up past the half court very quickly and initiates a play, or he's making that quick transition pass up the court to an open whoever. And Philly just like, at every instance of that, could not get back for the most part and set their defense and counter that at all. And, Tatum didn't finish with a huge amount of assists, but that shouldn't be indicative of how good he was at moving the ball and doing things other than scoring. And he just happened to be pretty hot in this game, shooting 13 for 20. So, Jayson Tatum, I mean, I'm going to go to bed tonight. Very happy. I'm going to sleep very well. That was an incredible performance because, like we said, up the top, we just don't expect that this early in the regular season, and yet we got it. So anything else on the Jays before we finally well and truly tie the knot on that and move on?
Jaylen's going to be back to the All-Star team this year, as he should be, and All-NBA campaign as well, off to a good start.
He'll be in that 3rd team. I'm pretty confident.
Which is important. It's important because we want to get him have the ability to offer him that extension.
Yeah, pay him all the money. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jackson, moving down the ladder, if you will, of things of importance. I admit I need to come up with a better name for this segment. What was sort of the next most important aspect of this game?
His father's name is Gilbert Williams.
Yes, that's what I was
friend of the
thinking.
podcast.
That's
his
right.
name is Grant Williams. Perfect from the field.
Yes,
Someone double check that, but I'm pretty sure I saw
really?
that.
No,
It was
he
like
is.
5 of
Yeah.
5
Yeah.
and 3 of 3
Yep.
from 3. Yeah. Got into foul trouble early on Embiid, as I mentioned earlier. Didn't really even seem to throw him off his game. I thought he was fantastic. You know, we touched on the bench situation with Brogdon running that unit just earlier. Grant being in that unit with him is super important. And like, obviously he's not going to shoot perfect every night, but like the offensive sort of options you get from Mr. Corner Office being out there with someone like Brogdon next to him, he's going to get a lot more. He's going to have a lot more games like that than I think he's had in the past. And he's going to turn into a pretty reliable shooter. So Grant, I think I could put him higher to be honest, but really the guys we've had in front of him, it's justified. So Grant Williams is definitely on that list for me. What do you reckon, Jake?
Yeah, dude. That second unit is Brogdon and Grant. Like Grant has just become the definition of solid. It's like the ship started to feel a little uneasy, and he had that attack, and somehow that reverse scoop like over Embiid. You had the little pump fake, sidestep in the corner 3. Like he is so dependable, which is exactly what you need from a guy like Grant. Bummer to not see the extension get done, but just more of the same. Like to see the continuation of how effective he was in the most part playoffs, kind of until we got to the finals, is great because the depth, and especially at a position where the front court feels a little shaky. If Grant can continue to be like just solid, dependable, like he's durable, like it's a really big deal, and just more of the same tonight. It's great to see. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Z Gamer just called it out in the chat there. Like we saw a lot of new Grant as it was advertised in the preseason. You know, the shot fakes and the drives, him getting to the rim and sort of countering those closeouts, which he's deservedly getting as a proven 3-point shooter in the league. So great to see him like implement that so early. Like, yes, like these are skills that I have acquired. I will be using them from the get-go in game 1 of the regular season. And if you're in the chat, you're listening to the show, like let us know what you think the next most important factor of the game is. Because, you know, we've only got so many things listed here, and we want to hear from you guys and interact with everybody in the chat. I will say, I don't know if this is necessarily the next most important thing, but a sneaky good stat from this game, and I know he was in foul trouble, and I know it's not going to be a regular occurrence throughout the season, but Al Horford only playing 23 minutes and the Celtics winning as decisively as they did is a really nice thing, and really nice takeaway from this game, in that we're going to need to sort of like sneak Al Horford rest minutes, like especially in this early part of the season while we're waiting for Time Lord and whatever's going on with Cornet to resolve. If we can get away with Al Horford playing that fewer minutes in a game as big as this, a marquee game, that's a huge win. Jake, like I guess as an extension of that, like what were your thoughts overall of Horford's performance? Because he was pretty fucking solid.
Yeah, I think that's going to be his role in the regular season. Like in preparation last night, I was like just watching a lot of playoff highlights, and I watched some Horford highlights, and he had this play against, I think it was Miami, where he just coasted it and won 5s into the bench. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of like the high octane level of play that we saw from Al a lot throughout the season, which is totally fine. But again, you said the word solid, and to see them actually be okay, because that was like our biggest concern that you brought up in the pregame show was I'm fucking worried about Al Horford picking up 2 quick fouls and then Embiid just parading to the line, putting Vonleh in the basket, yada, yada, yada. But to see the rest of the team step up when Horford wasn't able to play those minutes is so encouraging, because I think playing him 25, 26 minutes a night, probably where you want him.
Yes.
Throughout the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts, Jackson?
No, I agree. I completely agree there. Like the secret is going to be like keeping him fresh. And, you know, if this is what he's going to give you, you know, most nights when he is healthy, then yeah, no, he's going to have to be managed. Because again, solid without being spectacular, but an important piece of the puzzle, no doubt. So yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that I think to keep an eye on as well, like in the first half of last year, the Horford 3-pointer just wasn't there at all, along with half the rest of the Celtics shooting. And then it came back in the second half of the year and the playoffs. To see him go 2 for 5 tonight, that's probably the amount of threes he's going to get every night, the way that they play, and to see him look confident and knock a couple down is beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
we'll take a 40% three pointers
from our starting
Yes,
seven.
sir.
Yes.
Yeah, and the two that he made were pretty timely from memory. Like he
Mm-hmm.
missed a few late in the game. I think he had two fairly wide open opportunities, courtesy of Jayson Tatum's amazing passing late in the game. But it was basically decided at that point that the Celtics were going to run away with it. So I'm not really zooming in on that too much. A comment here from That's Pretty Neat. They say JB, White, and Brogdon put on an insane pace on the 76ers all night. We were talking about that in our playback stream, that early on that was very apparent.
Yes.
Just like there was a sort of a hectic, a frantic pace about it, and that they went on that early 9-2 run. Then there was some referee fuckery that kind of brought
Oh
the
my
Sixers
God.
back into it, but including that Al Horford flagrant foul. But the pace straight away was really notable, and part of that was absolutely Derrick White, who doesn't jump off the page if you look at the box score now. I'm curious to hear from you guys, Jackson. Like Derrick White, like I said, not a notable impact statistically, but I feel like he did have an impact and a noticeable role in the team's success tonight. What did you think?
I barely noticed him, to be honest.
That could be a good
I think
thing,
I was.
though.
It's gonna. Yeah, true. Like if I don't notice him doing bad things, then I'll take that. And if I don't notice him doing good things, then sweet, I'll also take that. I think I was like, again, fresh off the game. I would have to like watch it back, but like my prevailing memories of the game was how smart and Brogdon especially ran the game. I didn't see much of Derrick White, but I don't remember him doing too much wrong either. So I if that's the kind of game we're going to get from him for the rest of the season, awesome. I'll take that.
Yeah, like I feel it's frustrating for me in a sense because I feel like we're going to have to hear about some less thoughtful media members around the league that are low on Derrick White's impact and low on how much the Celtics gave up to get him. But I love the way that he plays and I love the way that he fits on this team. He pushes the pace. He can defend. He's so smart. He gets in the right places. You're like, good decision. It's always a good decision from Derrick White. I actually can't believe that he had such a low stat line. Like it kind of actually surprised me. But just 24 minutes of being solid across the board is what you're going to get from Derrick. And he just makes that depth like really, really sing. Like when you've got a backcourt rotation of Marcus, Derrick, and Brogdon, these guys that are just, and he gets into the paint, gets paint touches, kicks the ball out, gets the offense moving, and just completely, he just fits the identity that they're trying to play with defense, ball movement, and pace. Like it's perfect.
Yeah, I've heard him described as connective tissue, I think around the trade deadline last year when he was acquired, and he absolutely lives up to that description. Again, with user, That's Pretty Neat. Being pretty neat unto themselves by bringing some excellent stats to the chat here. They're talking about the fast break discrepancy, 24-2, we believe, was that discrepancy, which is actually, I mean, that's incredible. I wonder if, as far as fast break points, if those points off of those Tatum rebounds count as a fast break, because based on the eye test, I would actually describe that as a fast break. And then I just saw that the team scored 76% of their 2-point field goal attempts as well.
Yeah,
13-2
in the first half and 11-0 in the second was the fast break points difference for us.
Yeah, which speaks to the Celtics' transition defense as well, and that they gave the Sixers so many less opportunities to get out and run. Not that that's necessarily their game when like your best player is this big lumbering big man like Joel Embiid, but incredible on both ends for the most part for the Celtics. Should we talk about the rotation a little bit, because talking about the guards, we have this abundance of depth and competence in that Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, and Derrick White, who we just spoke about. They're like 3 starting caliber point guards, and you can just rotate them in and out. You can play them individually with a different lineup, or you can play them all together or 2 at a time. It just felt like I just felt like safe and comfortable, with knowing that was our guard depth. We didn't even see Peyton Pritchard, who unfortunately might be
I think we're going
the
to
sole
see much of
victim.
him.
Yeah, of that abundance of guards for us. But Jake, just talk about the guard rotation and how you think that's going to play a role for the Celtics for the season, and particularly in this game.
There was a moment there in the third quarter where there was Marcus and Derrick. There was neither Jay were on the court, and it was that little maxi run, and the defense was how was Hauser on the Hauser was on the court. And that was the only time today where I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure about what we've got on the court right now." But outside of that, the fact that you can mix and match these guys, like Joe Zula's job is kind of easy. Like you can play any of these guys together one at a time, all three, if you're getting the right matchup, obviously. So I liked what I saw in general from the rotations tonight. I think when you don't notice cat appearance, if you had that on your bingo card for first of the floor, bingo, exactly, yeah. I think when you're not noticing bad rotations is a good thing, but I also think that speaks to how good the Celtics roster is. Like there aren't a lot of bad options to turn to. Like even watching some of the highlights last night and seeing like Romeo and Neesmith out there not that long ago. It's nice.
I feel a lot more confident in the rotation. Yeah, there was that one moment where I think you were calling it out, Jake, on the stream. Like, I just get this lineup out of here. It's just not working. But yeah, nothing else beyond that. It's kind of like, so much was made of how like we're sort of light at the big man position, well, like not after on tonight's evidence with Noah Vonleh, but going into it, that was like we're very, we're little, we don't have a lot of depth at big man, but our guard depth is excellent. So, and if I'd rather have like short on guards or short on big man, I can probably live without the big man. You know what I mean? And as for Pritchard, I think we'll probably see a lot less of him, but Brogdon inevitably is going to go down. So there'll be opportunities for him quite regularly. I don't want it either, but I'm just.
You said you were a vibesman, Jackson. The right vibes with that.
I think it'll be some minor stuff. It'll be like he dives to the floor for too much and bangs his pinky, so he has to have a couple of games.
That is
stuff like that.
It's a good point because I was thinking about that just before, and like obviously Brogdon's health is a massive part of the Celtics story this year. But 24 minutes, like. That's a pretty nice spot in a game that was really important, and you kind of expect minutes for important players to go up. Jaylen and Jayson, they just can play minutes forever, especially Jayson in a game like you saw tonight. But to see Brogdon at 24, I feel like he's not going to have to, just statistically, the more minutes you play, the more likely you are to get injured, I guess. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
When you bring that down for Brogdon, I do think that's kind of a big deal as far as keeping him healthy. He can just come in and tear him to pieces.
Yeah, I think the staff would be aware too. It's like, they know what this guy's injury history is. If we can keep him to this amount of minutes and he can still be as effective as he is like that, then we are laughing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, soft minutes limit, at least at this point in the season. As we start to wrap up here, let us know in the chat if you've got any points you want to make or anything that we haven't discussed yet that we think we should have. And speaking to that, Marcus Smart, who is definitely in that category of like, it's good when we don't notice him, particularly in the offensive end. 7 assists, 8 free throw attempts, really asserted himself in this game without taking away from the impact that we expect from like our more prominent players. Jake, what do you got?
He's back. He was right, but we had the interaction with Embiid and the flagrant and the grab of the ankle, which we're going to have to hear about the next couple of days, no question. The sliding along the floor off the James Harden step back, who then shimmied and then proceeded to like barely graze the backboard. It was the full Marcus experience. There was if you're on the playback stream, we had the no, yes moment where he took the transition pull-up three. I was like, no, Marcus, and just splash. So we had all of
that
it,
was
but 8 shots. Yeah.
So that was after we botched that like breakaway, which would have been easy 2 points. And that was a really important bucket too.
It was tense at that point. And so I think having Marcus with under 10 shots is probably going to be a good kind of bellwether thing. And I feel like he figured that out last year, that the most helpful I am with this team is not when I'm jacking him up. Mm-hmm. I can, if you need me to, a couple guys go out. The Raptors game where we lost in overtime with Marcus in the bench comes to mind from last year. Like, he's more than happy to run and gun. But 3 for 8 from Marcus. I'm not even don't even care really. Like the 1 3 that he did make was probably by far the most important elite defense and the facilitation.
Yeah,
Chef's
I have
kiss.
I've long maintained that any game where Smart attempts less than 10 shots is a good Marcus Smart game. And with the amount of talent, scoring talent we've got on this team, that's something that we can probably expect, I think, barring injuries going into the season. Jackson, here's a question for you. This is from ZGamer200. Hauser only got 3 minutes. Do you think that's going to be a regular thing, or is it just because of the Sixers being a good team and having, some dynamic scoring guards out there in Maxey and Harden?
I disagree. The Sixers are a good team, but to your question, no, I think we're all very high on Hauser, for his preseason performances. But hey, do you remember Carson Edwards? I remember Carson Edwards. I think Hauser.
I blocked that out.
Yes,
blocked it out.
I can't, man. I can't forget. But no, Hauser is going to be more important and more useful and better than Carson Edwards. Don't get it twisted. That's going to happen. But I don't think we're going to see him, be in there as much as, say, someone like Adino Gallinari would be in there. And because I think the times he was in tonight, I don't really remember them. I remember him getting cooked on a pick and roll situation. I think Maxey scored off, and then we didn't see the foul he committed to give them 2 free throws at the start of the second half. That's all I remember. So I would love to see him come in, and I'd love to see him knocking down threes at the clip that he was doing in the preseason. And if that happens, he'll get minutes, and no worry about that. But I think we're probably going to see a lot less of him, at least to start with, than we were hoping for or anticipating. But you never know. There are some crap teams this year.
Yeah, I think it's just a tough environment. And I think we want him to succeed. And I think throwing him into an environment today where there's some tough guys to guard out there one-on-one. I think against a team, he might actually be able to get in there against the Heat because Maxey and Harden and Embiid are just tough players to defend one-on-one, but against the Heat. And then we have 2 days off. We play the Heat, and then we have a back-to-back against the Magic. Mm-hmm. That's a spot for Hauser right there. So it was kind of like an 8.5-man rotation tonight, with Blake Griffin getting 8 and Hauser getting 3 minutes. And I think that was probably the right call from Job. It was tight rotation, but not too tight. We got a few. That's all he kind of needed tonight was 3 extra minutes to buy the Jays a bit of rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ease him in.
Yeah,
ease him in.
You touched on Griffin there again. From that's pretty neat, and thanks again for all the contributions in the chat from everyone watching. How do you all feel about Griffin's performance? I guess I'll take this. I thought that he did just enough. I think he finished a -8 or something like that. I don't know how much you can read into that, but he just kind of came in and just held on. He had a couple of botched defensive possessions. One notable one not long after he checked in, but I thought he just kind of in those minutes where you just need to rest the guys who really matter in our rotation, he kind of was a little bit more than just a human body on the court, which is all we really need for those spot minutes. And I think give him a little bit of credit, it's his first game. Obviously, all the athleticism has declined there a little bit, but for the most part, he gave us
a little bit.
Just enough of what we needed to sort of give the guys a bit of a blower on the bench there. I don't know if there's anything really more to take away from Griffin's game. Any thoughts there, guys, before we wrap this thing up?
I think it was good that wasn't oh man, we've got to get him out of there. And I think for his first game back against the Sixers, that's a pretty good bar to clear. To have you not notice it being bad is probably what you want from his first game as a Celtic. He did have a couple of nice rebounds, I think. As far as the rebounding issue goes, I thought that he made that a bit of a focus. He's probably going to get he took 2 shots tonight. He's probably going to get 1 or 2 3-pointers attempts per game. It's I think I saw Z Gamer mention it before in the chat. It's can you just knock down 1 or 2 shots a game? That would make him pretty much perfect for what we need him for. A couple of rebounds. I think the defense he's got to pick up still. Brogdon struggled to pick it up at first. I thought Brogdon now is just flying through, directing traffic on the switches. And I think Blake Griffin's smart enough that he will pick that up. It's his second game playing with the Celtics after the last preseason game. So I think that's definitely going to come along. And as he becomes more comfortable, I think it'll look better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just seeing some post-game interview comments to sort of starting to emerge here on Twitter. So this is from Jay King. Malcolm Brogdon called it, quote, a dream to play for the Celtics. He thinks that they had a great preseason and the returners from last year knew how they wanted to approach this season. And then a quote also captured by Jay King here from Grant Williams. He said that he didn't think Marcus Smart's trip on Embiid was that bad. Called Embiid's fall a, quote, FIFA-type deal. Amazing. Grant is killing it at the post-game comments so far.
Grant's a vest.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I guess a couple of questions to quickly wrap up here. How does this performance set your expectations for the week ahead, Jackson? Obviously, we've got the Heat coming up in a couple of days, then the Magic, and blame me for not bringing up the rest of the schedule. So let's just look at those 2 games. How does this, obviously, I think I can imagine what your answer is going to be, but how does that set your expectations going forward?
Yeah, super high. I expect 2-1 at minimum. You know, if you lose to the Heat will really want to beat us. They'll be up for it. If that happens, then so be it. But as long as we bounce back against the Magic, that'll be fine. So if we're 2-1 with the next week, that's great. But really, I expect us to be 3-0 and just dominating everyone, just like we did tonight. Because again, Nick picking aside, there was nothing. I saw nothing wrong with that game. Nothing wrong with that performance from any aspect.
Yeah, Jake.
I'm just having a look at the schedule, trying to figure out what I hate that we've got a back-to-back right out of the bat. I guess maybe it's good because get one of them out of the way while you're still fresh. The good news is we have 2 days off and we go to Miami. Miami plays tomorrow and then they play us, obviously. So we will have like a rest advantage, however slight that is, isn't just. I think the Celtics are probably going to be favored in that game. I think especially off the back of this performance, the Celtics are going to, and I don't know, after seeing how intense they came out on, it's the defensive intensity, without Time Lord being here, I think it's fair to assume that it's not going to be one of the best defenses of all time. But they looked every bit like a top 5 defense. And so as long as that maintains against a team like Miami, who's going to struggle to score offensively, and I think they're going to struggle to figure out losing PJ Tucker. Hero is probably going to be starting. I think the Celtics are going to feel pretty good going into that one, as much as the Heat are going to want to win it. I wanted to go 1-2 in the first 2 because back to back within Orlando. I feel like Orlando, always weird shit happens with them. So who knows?
Yeah, fair. And they might feel a little bit like they can dial it back for that game and maybe play Sam Hauser 35 minutes or 40 minutes and that won't necessarily work out.
And Orlando's going to be all right, I reckon, this year. I don't think.
I like Orlando this year.
They're big.
Because so Orlando played the Pistons. I wish they were playing someone good and then they would beat them. So the Celtics would be like, oh, they're good. But the Celtics lost to the Pistons and then almost lost to the Pistons last year. So if they beat the Pistons, the Celtics might think, wow, they beat a team that's pretty good, so we have to take them seriously.
Yep. Okay,
Genius.
I like it.
I'll get on board for that, yeah.
Starting to wrap our heads around it. This is good. Starting to feel good expectation-wise. 2 awards to give out very quickly before we go. The first, we don't even really need to discuss this. MVP of the game. Jackson, do you want to do the honors?
Sure. Jayson Tatum.
Right.
Incredible.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any arguments? I'd love to hear
Yeah.
them. We blocked the one douchebag in the chat, so I don't think anyone will contest that.
I know.
I was loving his input, but yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. The Celtics. I like that. I could see your face deciding if you should come up with a joke pick, Jackson. I had no joke pick. I had no segue. I had no nothing. I was just like, yeah, obviously.
Well, we do need to appoint a runner-up, and that's not the second award, but I think there is a very deserving runner-up candidate. Jake, do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, I'm gonna try and guess. I wonder if you're gonna go off the board. I kind of want to give it. to Vonleh for being solid.
It's Vonleh.
Yes.
It's fucking Vonleh.
Let's
He was
go.
so good and just not being terrible, which I think is right where he's at. Just come in and don't really suck.
Being useful.
Just give some grief to Embiid and PJ Tucker. And he did exactly that. So I think that might be one of the stories coming out of this game. And finally, who wins the first to the floor award? As in, who is literally the first player to go to the floor?
Was it Vonleh?
I think it was
I'm
Vonleh.
pretty sure it was
Marcus.
Vonleh.
Was it Vonleh?
It might have been Marcus.
Oh, you're right. Maybe it was Vonleh.
When he
I'd go
went, I saw him go to the ground and I was like yelling it out, but unless I forgot Marcus went there before on an earlier play, but I thought it was Vonleh.
Oh, thank you. We're gonna have to check the tape.
We'll double check that. Unless Z Gamer 200 knows or someone else in the
Yeah,
chat.
let us know in the
Throw us
comments.
a bone.
Either now in the live stream, or this is obviously going to stay up on YouTube after the fact. So if you're listening later on, please let us know in the comments. Look, I think that's going to do it for this one. A decisive season opener for the Celtics. Very pleasant way to begin the afternoon here in Australia and wrap up your day there in the US. Guys, any parting thoughts before we wrap this one up?
I think it's going to be a good season.
Yeah. Specifically shout out Zach Harper for The Athletic, who had the Celtics 8th on his power rankings for The Athletic. Such a joke.
Jake taking the seats.
I'm sure the Sixers were ahead of us too.
The Sixers were ahead of us. The Suns were ahead of us as far as like actually winning the title.
Yeah.
I'm like I get trying to maybe put them at 4, but 8 behind like Nuggets, Suns, Sixers. That's just you're just trying to be contrarian. And here I am. This is my fault for giving him the attention. But yeah, we're back. How about you, Ben? How you feeling? I caught you doing like a temple hold at some point in the third quarter.
Yeah, a little moment there where it looked like the Sixers were scrapping back a little bit, and I was a little bit worried just because this feeling is over a year old now because we didn't really do it too much beyond the opening couple of months of last season, but giving up those early leads. Like it's kind of been long enough that that's been a tendency of ours that I should have learnt to get over it, and yet I haven't. And that was why I was sitting in our stream sort of holding my head a little bit. Well, look, guys, that is going to do it for this one. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. We're really rounding the corner there as far as getting to 1,000 subscribers. If you're listening later, give us that. I don't know what the rating system is on Spotify. I think it's just like 5 stars. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Show us some love as we kick off our own season here at First to the Floor. That's going to do it. Until next time, go Celtics.